our time is gone, but I'm sure that what God has purposed for us to hear, we will hear it. My name is Jane, I'm born again. And I always say that that is the only thing that has take pride in, because all other crowd is sinking sad. I was just thanking God when Kezia was so passionately talking about God being Ebenezer. We have many things that we place before God, but at the end of it all the other things are sinking sand remain. And so we need to just know that God will serve us in salvation. As I was thinking about the word that I would give, there's a sound that kept from in me, Psalm 51. And actually, I have never read it. I think I have never read it as much as or if I have read it, it's just by passing. And the key that I would want us to think about is our testimony to God. If I was to testify to God, what did I tell? Because the word says, I want to read Psalm 151. It's a very short psalm. And this is David talking to God. My heart is not proud. No. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters, or things too wonderful for me. But I have come and quieted myself. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. Israel, put your God in the Lord. Jane, put your God in the Lord. Put your name there, because we are not in Israel. I don't think there's anybody who is called Israel in this world, but it's us that the Lord, we are speaking to ourselves that we will become. As I was thinking about that, there are a few points that I came up with. David talked about his heart not being. And you can only know whether you are proud or not through self-examination. And if there's anything that is challenging to do is to examine yourself, especially the ugly side of it. Because we all have that shadow, that if someone knew about us, they would be like, is that the same person? Because when we're in public, we behave differently. When in private, we behave differently. And actually, we should strive towards behaving according to God's purpose, whether in public or in private. There's something that I have always told myself. You know, when you're cooking in the kitchen, you're all alone. And sometimes you can decide to be using the spoon to taste the food, and you take it, put it back in the food. I have always told myself that every time that I am dealing with myself, I should ask myself, if I was cooking for people and they are looking at me, would I do the same thing? And that is the same question I ask myself. Before I do some of the things that my mind may tell me to do, if God was me, is it the same thing that I would do? So David had examined himself and seen that his heart was not proud. He also talks about his eyes not being haughty. Haughty is about arrogance. You know, there are times that you can even look at a person and you can tell you an arrogant person. I remember when we were growing up in the rural areas, the older women, if they hated somebody, they would speak like this. I don't know whether most of the people that grew up in the rural areas, you know that. And if they're talking about somebody, they'll be saying, so they'll be, and sometimes even us, we do the same thing. And if you pass and they're not, they're very, very happy with you, they do. So the actions were speaking very loud. Somebody doesn't have to tell me that they hate you. But David is saying that he is not arrogant. The other thing that he's saying is that I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me. What are the things that concern us? Although I'll do that in the conclusion. But he had an alternative, because the next verse says, but I have still and quieted my soul. So, as much as he is not proud, he is not concerned with great things, there's something that he has purpose to do, to be still and quiet his soul. And then finally he says, O Israel, put your hope in the Lord, both now and forevermore. Why does he say that? Because David had gone through a lot, and he knew who God was. And he finally saw that it is only in God that you can find solace. I love the testimonies that have been coming, because we have all realized that without God, we are just useless. So there were a few lessons that I drew from this. The first one is that you can only confidently tell God that you're not proud if you have a relationship with Him. You don't have confidence to face anybody if you feel like you're guilty. Even when you are growing up, if your parent asks you a question and you are guilty, you just be looking down and you don't have even an answer. The same thing would happen to us if we were to approach God. If we are guilty, if we are proud, we cannot have that confidence of giving Him a testimony. Oh God, my heart is not. Because I have really examined myself. Truthfully, because sometimes we examine ourselves in very superficial manners. The second thing is that we can only develop confidence through self-examination. And I see that most of the times we are able to examine ourselves. There is a time somebody made a statement, and it started me because I had never thought. We were working and we went for a meeting. And when I sat to one person, he said, let me move from here. I don't want to be intimidated. I have never, ever thought that I can intimidate anybody because I feel like, who am I? But there are those people who will look at me, and for sure, when I examine myself, I saw I can be very intimidating because when I put a statement across, I don't mince my words. I don't beat about the bush, and I will tell you this is what it is. So I felt that this person might feel intimidated simply because, especially, sorry to say this, for a man to feel like, you are authoritative. It's not authority as such, but because I'm putting myself across so strongly, this person might have felt intimidated. And when I asked him, he said, oh yeah, you are very intimidating. And so even now, I need to ask myself some questions when I am putting across a statement. Although I know it is a struggle because I come out very strong. So that is something that I need to work on. Then the other thing, so I see that you can only develop confidence through your self-examination about your work with God. Because sometimes we think that we are working with God, but we left Him long ago because of what? Some of the things that are happening in our lives. I love the way Kezia has put it across. When we come here, we want to assume that we lived very well when we were up home. But she was talking about manure. I don't know if there is anybody who would say that they were carrying manure on their back here because we are driving good cars, we have good homes, we have good jobs, we have what it takes to feel as a human being, right? I have arrived. But David was very careful to think about arrogance. And sometimes you don't think that you're arrogant. But even the way we relate with people, because somebody could be saying something, and I've heard that there are people who, I don't want to call them comedians, but there are people who will look at life and start saying what happens. And I remember there's one lady who's very famous. I don't want to name names, but she used to say, there are times that when people from the city, we are all from Kenya, apart from our family. So the people who come from the city, you find that they are treated different with the people who are back home. And so if there are barriers, there is a bathroom for the people from Nairobi, there is food that is going to be served for the people from Nairobi, and all that. And that can make us feel very proud. And that can make us feel like we own everyone. Even now, when we're in America, sometimes no decision can be made before the person in America talks, because they're the ones that are providing cash. And sometimes we become very proud and arrogant. So we need to think about the things that we focus on. Because when you talk about the word concern, what things concern you? Concern means that it is something that you're concentrating on. Sometimes you're concentrating on our jobs, on our children's achievement, on the houses we have, on the ambitions that we have, because I am sure even now, there are people who are going to rush to work, the others that are going to have meetings, the others that are going to do budgeting. We have different things that we want to achieve. But David said that he didn't have any concern of those great things. And I'm telling you, until we get there, we will always be running after air. Because Kezia has bought a good car. Now I think, hey, Kezia just came the other day. I should get a better. And so competition drives us to arrogance sometimes. And when we have achieved, we become arrogant to say, these people have been here for 20 years. What have they done? These ones have been here for 5 years. I am here for 1 year. I already have this and that. That is arrogance. That is pride. But sometimes we think that we are talking about our achievements. But part 2 makes the difference. David chose to be still and to quiet his soul. And he came up with a solution. Put your hope in the Lord, not in fire. So we have 3 things that we have learned. That we can only have a relationship with God and confidence when we have examined ourselves. Then we need to start asking ourselves the things that concern us. Are they godly things? Or are we just running to please ourselves? And we say, God will come later. And then what choices do we make? When we are troubled, we call on our friends. I am sure our vicar here, if he was to say, maybe he has received more than 20 calls to go this month. But David made a choice that he would be still and quiet his soul, just as a child that has been weaned. When a child is full, they will just be at rest. If they're not wet, and they have no, we make our children get used to that. So sometimes they give us trouble when we put them down. But if this child is okay, they have been fed, they will just lie still. And that is the choice that David made. And finally, he said, the best thing is to put his hope in God. It's not only now that we're looking at the elections. It is forevermore. Because God remains God. Regardless of what happens. In fact, when you look at what the things that are happening, you start asking yourself, where is God? Have you ever been there to see who he is? He says, I am God. I am who I am. We haven't seen him, but we believe in him because we have seen what he is able to do. Finally, remember the things that God has done for you. I was happy when my sisters were saying what God has done for them. Even me, when I look back, I think about the things that God has done for me. I used to be a very small person. And I was told that at one time it's like I had kwashiorkor. But I don't look like I have kwashiorkor now. So I need to remember that God will deliver me from kwashiorkor to here, because it has taken his heart. I struggle with weight. Those days I was so thin. But now, here I am. So I need to remember the things that God has done for me. And I also need to be myself. Let us not be in competition. Compete with yourself and ask yourself, what strengths do I have? So that you're able to be still, to be content. Actually, if there's anything that God gave me, and I'm very happy about, is contented. Even when I don't have $1 in my bag, I will walk with my head held and say, oh, that millionaire. But I am a millionaire at heart, because I have found contentment in God. And I remember even when I was walking back home, people would come and ask me for money. You have no idea who you're asking money for. But because I have that confidence in God, because if you have food, our prayer, the Lord's Prayer will say, give us our daily bread. But we are looking for bread for 10 years. And that is what is making us not get contented and focus on the things that do not matter. Remember, you can never be independent. And that is what I love, because when God looks at me, he doesn't look at my sisters. He looks at me as Jen. And that is why he made me unique. Even my fingerprint, even if you went around the world, you'll never get it. And finally, there is a word in Isaiah 53, I think. Not Isaiah, sorry. Psalm 51. Psalm 51 verse 17 says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. When you have a broken spirit, when you have a broken heart, when you go to God with remorse, because sometimes, like when you're offended, even when you're going to pray to God, you say, but remember, it is Kezia who can ABCD. Instead of saying, God, I have come before you. This is what I'm going through. Because even before you say it, God can see it. Just lay bare there and tell God, this is what I'm going through. So he loves a broken and contrite heart. Somebody who is remorseful. Because sometimes we say sorry, and it is not meant from our hearts, even to our fellow, brethren. I might offend somebody, and when I say sorry, I'm just saying it so that this issue can end. And I am one of those people that God has taught step by step how to behave. Because long ago, if I said sorry, I felt like I was going to die. And it would even make me cry that I have said sorry. But these days, you offend me, I'll say sorry, because I believe I am perfect in God's ways. I am wonderfully and fearfully made. So the opinion you have about me does not matter. If I say sorry, and you say, oh, how can you reduce yourself to that? No. I know that. I know who I am because of who God says I am. And so let us just aim towards having a broken spirit, contrite heart, because that God will not despise. And may the Lord bless us. Let us pray. Everlasting Father, we thank you, Lord, because of your word. Thank you because you are the God. You meant it to help us to be still. Remember that you are going on according to your word in Psalm 46, verse 10. We thank you and we surrender to you, Jehovah God, that you may continue sustaining us and preserving us in the name of Jesus Christ. We do pray, believe. Thank you.